Everybody, welcome back to another episode with your boy Shifty. In today's video, I'm going to go over 3 of my least favorite moves that the 49ers have made in the offseason so far. What I'm also going to do in this video is give alternative suggestions as to what I would have done instead of what we actually did. So there is a lot to talk about in this video, so let's not waste any time. Let's run that intro. The first move of the offseason that I wasn't particularly a big fan of was the 49ers restructuring the contract of Javon Hargrave. So the good news with it is that it created over $6 million in cap space, which did allow us to make some moves in the offseason. So that's definitely the positive. But if you look at some of the negatives, you look at we're just pushing money down the road. Javon Hargrave not coming off a bad season in 2023, but far from his best year, and he's 31 years old, getting a little bit older. Will he be able to find that 2022 form again? I'm not too sure. I'd happy to be wrong, but I'm not too sure. Positive though is I do think that the defense that we're going to run with Nick Sorensen and with Brandon Staley is going to be a bit more conducive to our defensive line compared to what we saw with Steve Wilks. So I'd like to think that Hargrave will have a bit of a bounce back year and perform better than what we saw in 2023. But overall though, just not crazy about the move for a guy who's 31 years old to be pushing money down the road. It just seems like, are we running into another Arik Armstead situation where we're going to have to cut a guy and we're going to have to, over the next few years, eat a bunch of money in the future? Not an ideal situation and typically not the best way to do business. Now, so what would I have done instead? And there's the big option to me was maybe looking to extend one of our players, which would have reduced their cap hit this year. And the guy I would have extended instead of restructuring Javon Hargrave is Mooney Ward. I think Mooney Ward is playing at an elite level, absolutely Pro Bowl caliber player. You could argue maybe second team all-pro type player. He has been phenomenal. He's only 28 years old. It would have saved us more money by extending him than by restructuring Hargrave. So there's the benefit there. The other slight benefit here also, if we did extend Mooney Ward, is that when you look at our top 4 cornerbacks, Mooney Ward, Lenore, Ambry Thomas, and Isaac Yiadom, they are all in the last year of their deals. So it's none of those guys are guaranteed to be on the roster in 2025. However, if you extended Mooney Ward, then yes, he's obviously going to be on the roster more long term. I think that would have been the wiser move for the 49ers to have made, but I do understand why they restructured Hargrave. Just I would have gone about it a different way for us to save money this offseason. The next move that I wasn't crazy about for the San Francisco 49ers was the signing of Yetur Gross-Matos. Now, the one thing which I'll say about him is he has a great name, and it's going to be a really fun name to say during the live streams on game day, but overall, I'm not a big fan of this move. He signed a 2-year deal for $18 million and $9.4 million guaranteed. Now, one of the reasons why I wasn't a big fan of this move is because we signed him really early on in free agency, and I don't think we necessarily had to do that. I think we could have waited it out, probably got him on a cheaper deal, or we could have gone in some other directions. Now, the positive thing with, I'm just going to call him YGM for now, is that he did have his best year in 2023 with the Carolina Panthers, 4.5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, and 7 tackles for loss. So that's always a positive thing to be getting a guy who's still relatively young, who you think still has potential to grow, coming over to San Francisco, getting to work with Chris Kocurek, who we've seen him, the reclamation projects over the years with guys like Arden Key and Clelin Ferrell and other players too, Kerry Hyder, where we've gotten the best out of them to maybe go on and have their better years. So that is something to be positive to look at, but I just think that we overpaid for him. I think he is a good fit for this defense. You're probably going to see him on some, earlier downs, some maybe more running downs. You'll see him on the edge. You could see him kick in on more passing downs. He has that position versatility there, which I think is good. However, if it were me in charge, what I would have done is I would have gone after a different player, and that player would have been DJ Wonnum, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings. Now, he went for a 2-year deal as well. However, it was only for $12.5 million and only $1.25 million guaranteed, and he went to the Carolina Panthers. Now, you could argue that the reason why he went there is that he knew he would be a starter day one and he would get a lot of playing time with Carolina, and if he came to San Francisco, especially having Nick Bosa and Leonard Floyd, would he get those same snaps? Probably not. However, he's going to the worst team in the NFL in Carolina, as opposed to maybe coming to arguably the best roster in the NFL in San Francisco. I think he would have done that for the same money, and we could have easily paid that money. We gave it to YGM, and you look at a guy like DJ Wonnum and his stats last year, they far eclipse what YGM did. We're talking 8 sacks, 15 quarterback hits, and he tied with 7 tackles for a loss. I think this would have been a no-brainer. You look at their size, same height, very similar weight. I think we could have used them in very similar ways. So I was a little bit puzzled when I saw a guy like DJ Wonnum available in free agency, yet we quickly went out and signed YGM. Now, I have to just put faith in the scouting of guys like, obviously John Lynch and the whole scouting department, but also the opinions of guys like Chris Kocurek, Nick Sorensen, and Brandon Staley, who are obviously very involved and have been involved in our free agency moves. This is one that I just question. Now, I will happily be corrected on this. If YGM goes out there and has a career year and plays really well, I will be like, well, I was wrong, and I'll be happy to be proven wrong. But as of right now, just not totally convinced by this move. I would have gone with DJ Wonnum. The third move that I want to talk about here that I wasn't particularly fond of this offseason was the signing of defensive tackle Jordan Elliott to a 2-year deal. It was for $7 million with $2.3 million guaranteed. Now, similar to the Yetur Gross-Matos signing, the one thing that really confused me about this was just how early in free agency we signed Jordan Elliott. I don't think he was going to be a player who would have just, been snatched up by a bunch of other teams. I think we probably could have waited a little bit longer and probably got him at a more reasonable price. He's a guy where, look, it is a need because eventually Eric Armstead left. We also lost Javon Kinlaw in free agency, and he's there to kind of help fill that void of the run defense that did struggle in 2023. However, I'm just unconvinced by the move. I'm unconvinced by Jordan Elliott. Similar to YGM, I will happily be proven wrong if he can go out there and have a good season for us. In fact, I would obviously welcome that, but I'm just not convinced. For those of you who are big fans of PFF, if you look at Jordan Elliott's PFF ratings his entire career, they are in the 40s. They are not good by any stretch of the imagination. However, of course, there's more to football than just PFF ratings, but if it were me, I would have gone in a slightly different direction. And the direction that I would have gone in is signing defensive tackle Tim Settle. Now, Tim Settle eventually signed a 2-year deal with the Houston Texans. D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio doing a great job over there. They're identifying a guy who they think will be a solid run stopper in that same defensive scheme that we run in San Francisco. You look at his deal, 2 years for $6 million, so a little bit less there. However, the guaranteed money granted was higher at $3.2 million as opposed to Jordan Elliott at $2.3 million. I just think that Tim Settle is a better player. I think he's played, playing in Buffalo, playing with a really good defensive system there. Granted, Jordan Elliott did too when he was in Cleveland, but I just think Settle would have been the perfect addition. He's a bit bigger. He's around the 330-pound range compared to Elliott, who's around that 310. So I think it would have been that ideal run stopper. And we really are, outside of Kalia Davis on the roster, we are kind of lacking that really big run stopping defensive tackle. So I think that would have been a better move by the 49ers. It would have been more in guaranteed money. However, overall contract, it would have been a little bit less. And then if we want to compare the PFF ratings, last year, Tim Settle, 58.2. So look, he's not a Pro Bowl guy. He's not being paid like a Pro Bowl guy, but significantly better than Jordan Elliott. If you look through his career, he's been better than Jordan Elliott. So I just wonder, and I would love to hear the thought process of guys like John Lynch and the guys who were involved too, Chris Kocurek and Staley and Sorensen, why they went the route of Jordan Elliott. Clearly, there's some things on tape that they like a lot more. Something that I know that we saw is when the 49ers played the Browns last year, Jordan Elliott did have a couple of really nice plays against us, so maybe there was a little bit of bias there. But overall, just not totally convinced by this move. I would have gone with Tim Settle instead, but those are just my thoughts on some moves that I really just wasn't a big fan of this offseason. So there you have it, guys. Those are 3 moves that I just wasn't particularly fond of this off season. Again, I will be happy to admit I was wrong with any of these guys. I hope they prove me wrong. That's a big thing, and I know this video, of course, considering the content of it, it's a little bit more on the negative side. If you want to see a more positive video, I did do a video of my top 5 favorite moves of the off season, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts on some of the moves that we've made in free agency, whether you liked them, whether you disliked them, whether you agree with me, whether you don't. Always fun to get a good conversation going in the comments below. But that will do it for this video. We're going to have some more videos coming up. There's going to be some more draft talk, maybe some more free agent talk, depending on what happens. But thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. Really, really appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And before I head out, I'm going to say 2 things, and that is the butt counts, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.